Why does your silence hurt them more than anything you ever said out loud? Sit with that question for a moment, because tonight you deserve a real answer, not a platitude, not a pep talk, an answer. Why is the one who wronged you unraveling right now, when you haven't raised your voice, haven't made the call, haven't posted a single word? Your phone sits there on the table, dark and silent, and somehow that silence has become the loudest thing in their entire world. Why? You already know part of it. You feel it in your chest every time the screen stays black and your heart doesn't drop anymore. But nobody has ever said the whole truth to you plainly, so let me do that now, because this is not a coincidence that you're hearing this tonight. First, let me say what should have been said to you a long time ago. You were never the problem. What they did to you was real. The games were real. The confusion was real. The way you questioned your own memory after every conversation was real. You did not imagine it, and you did not cause it, and God saw every bit of it. Nothing happened in a room he wasn't standing in. Now the confession, and I offer it without shame, because shame was never yours to carry. You stayed because you are loyal. You kept giving chances because your heart was trained by heaven itself to believe the best about people. You answered their moods, their tests, their sudden coldness, because somewhere along the way they convinced you that keeping the peace was your job, and that losing them would be the end of you. You weren't weak, you were faithful in a place that was feeding on your faithfulness, and that is exactly where their so-called power came from. Listen closely, because this is the mechanism nobody explained to you while you were inside it. They never had power, they had access you loaned them. Every bit of control they held over you was a line of credit opened in your name, and they spent it freely. Your empathy, your forgiveness, your habit of explaining yourself, your fear of being the one who gave up. They fed on your reactions the way a fire feeds on air. Psychologists have a cold term for it: supply. The attention, the emotion, the rise and fall of your face that they needed the way lungs need oxygen. You were pumping it. Every argument you tried to win, every tear, every text you sent into the void at midnight, it all confirmed to them that the game was still running, and they were still the center of your world. And when the supply started running low, do you remember what they did? They gave you crumbs. A kind word after a cruel week, a soft morning after a storm, just enough warmth to keep you hoping, never enough to make you whole. That wasn't love returning, that was a lever being pulled. They had studied you like a lock, and they knew exactly how little it took to keep you turning toward them. So here is the question underneath the question: why are they losing control now, specifically now, when you have done nothing but go quiet? Because the phone is silent, because the supply line went dry, because the person who built their entire sense of self on your reaction woke up one day and discovered there was no reaction left to build on. You didn't slam anything, you simply stopped. And here's the part that changes everything: they counted on your goodness. That is the cruelest piece of this whole design. They never locked the door behind you, because they never, not once, believed you would actually walk through it. Their whole plan rested on one assumption: that you would always come back to explain yourself one more time. You didn't. And that quiet decision, the one you made alone, probably at an hour when nobody was watching, probably with shaking hands, that decision is why the tables have turned. Your absence didn't create the chaos you're hearing about, it revealed it. The confusion, the scrambling, the sudden reach-outs through mutual friends, the new audience they're performing for, that was always who they were. You were just the wall they hid it behind. If you've watched this happen from a distance and wondered whether you were wrong to leave, comment your answer below. No judgment here. This family already knows what it costs. Now watch what the silence is doing, stage by stage, because it is holy in its own quiet way. With you gone, the mask has no one to perform for. With you gone, every story they told about you has to be told to people who weren't there, and stories like that collapse under their own weight. With you gone, the mirror they avoided for years is the only thing left in the room. You were never their opponent, you were their cover, and when the cover walks away, whatever is underneath has to face the light. Pointing. Scripture says you'll know a tree by its fruit, not by its promises, not by its performance in the first season, by its fruit, in time, in the open. Time is doing its work now, and you didn't have to lift a finger for it. And hear this promise over your own life: what they meant for evil, the confusion, the slow erosion of your confidence, the way they made you feel hard to love, God is turning it. He is turning it into discernment you will carry for the rest of your life, into a tenderness that no longer comes with a leash, into a testimony that someone else is going to need someday soon. No weapon formed against you gets the final word. Not this one, not ever. If this message reached you where you live, confirm it with a like, so it travels past you and finds the next chosen one still sitting in the fog you just walked out of. But I need to tell you the rest of the answer, the part that isn't about them at all. Because the real question was never why they're falling apart. The real question is why you can't stop thinking about the fact that they're falling apart. And the answer to that one is tender, so receive it that way. You keep watching the wreckage because some small part of you is still waiting for the apology that would make the years make sense. Beloved, put that down. The closure you're hoping to collect from their collapse is a debt they cannot pay. They don't have the coin for it. They never did. The explanation you rehearsed hearing, the remorse you pictured in their eyes, release it into hands far bigger than theirs. Cast that care on the one who has been carrying you this whole time, because he cares for you, and he is not confused about what happened even when you still are. And notice what has quietly changed in you while all of this unfolded. The phone sits silent now, and your breathing is even. A year ago that silence would have felt like abandonment. Tonight it feels like an answered prayer. Same silence, different woman, different man. That is not their collapse you're witnessing anymore. That is your resurrection. The old version of you, the one who needed them to understand, who apologized for taking up space, who checked the screen before she checked her own peace, that version didn't survive the season, and she wasn't supposed to. Old things have passed away. You are becoming someone the person who wronged you will never meet, and they will spend a long time looking for the version of you they knew how to control, and they will not find her, because God Himself walked her out of that house. If you're ready to close this chapter for good, type your city below and let this community stand with you in it. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, not to a channel, but to a family of chosen ones who keep reminding each other of who God says we are. Turn on the bell so the next word for your season doesn't pass you by. So, why does your silence hurt them more than anything you ever said? Because your voice was never their power. Your presence was. And the day you took it back, the game ended, the table turned, and the truth stood up in the middle of the room like it had been there all along. The question that kept you up at night is answered now, closed, handed over. You don't have to carry it anymore, and you don't have to carry them anymore, and you never ever have to explain your peace to the person who taught you chaos. Send this to the chosen one in your life who's still blaming themselves for someone else's behavior. It might be the exact word they've been praying for without knowing it. Rest tonight. The phone is quiet, the door is shut, and the one who saw it all is still awake, still working, still turning every single thing they meant for your harm into the soil your future is already growing in. You were never the problem. You were the promise they couldn't stop. Be at peace, chosen one. He's not done with your story yet.